Hey, this is Mike from the Run Testers, and this is our first run review of the New Balance Fresh Foam X 1080 V13. Okay, so here's what you need to know about the 1080 V13, and there's a fair amount to learn about this shoe that's different from the 1080 V12. Now we'll start with the price. It is £160 in the UK, $170 in the US. So that is putting it up against other cushioned daily trainer shoes like the Nike Invincible 3, the Asics Gel Nimbus 25, also things like the Brooks Glycerin 20 as well. Now we'll start in terms of what's new here. So we'll start with the upper. Now in terms of the upper, we are seeing an engineered mesh upper instead of the hydro knit, the kind of stretchy upper that we got on previous more recent iterations of the 1080 shoe. Now in terms of the midsole foam, it's still Fresh Foam X, but it is a softer and lighter version that we're seeing here in the 1080 V13, and that's a trend we've started to see in a lot of New Balance shoes that have launched this year, having that lighter version of Fresh Foam X. Now in terms of the outsole, it's still a blown rubber outsole like the 1080 V12, but it definitely has changed a little bit in terms of design, and ultimately, as I said, it is still a shoe that's designed to be a kind of cushioned daily trainer shoe, just like the 1080 V12. But what I'll get into in the run test is that things have definitely changed. Whether they've changed for the better, we'll find out. Let's get into that run test. Okay, I'll start with fit, and I had my 1080 V13 in a UK size 8. Now I have in the past had 8.5s, 8s, they've been generally absolutely fine. I would say that this shoe has fit me pretty well, pretty nicely. It's pretty comfortable, pretty happy with the amount of space you're getting up front in the toes here. Pretty snug feeling, midfoot feels good as well. You're not getting this amazing lockdown from this upper. Obviously it's changed in terms of what it feels and the sensation of that kind of hydro knit upper and how it kind of pulls things in. This is definitely built a little bit more in terms of delivering a bit more comfort, a bit more snugness, and that's kind of what you get in this shoe. There's a good amount of padding here at the heel, again, to kind of extend that kind of more comfortable, more snug feeling upper in general. So for me, fit wise, it's been absolutely fine in that kind of first run that I've done. As I said, I've had mine in UK size 8, and obviously the New Balance does offer this shoe in different width options as well, like it does with a lot of issues. So if you do have some issues in terms of that fit, you do have some options there. But for me, based on my initial kind of run with it, the fit has seemed pretty much fine for me in my UK size 8. Okay, so into that first run, and I managed to squeeze in an hour of this at lunch. I was kind of doing 8-15-minute mile pace in them, so really kind of getting a sense of just putting them on, getting out, see what they feel like. I tried to pick it up in places to see how it could handle some up-tempo stuff, which is something the previous 1080s have been capable of. Now, in terms of my experience with the 1080 shoes previously, I mean, fine shoes, but I wouldn't say they were massively memorable. They're not shoes that I've used long term or reached for. I think there's better cushioned daily trainers out there that have served me better and have just been more enjoyable to use in general. Now, in terms of my first run in this shoe, this is definitely a different shoe to those previous 1080 shoes, and I would say for the better. I think the first thing I put it down to is that it definitely feels lighter. It definitely feels a lighter shoe to run in compared to the 1080 V12, and I think, you know, when we're seeing a trend that some shoes, kind of cushion daily training shoes, are getting a little bit heavier, this shoe has got lighter, and I definitely think that's a massive plus here for New Balance on the 1080 V13. The other thing here, obviously, is the midsole. The midsole has changed, so it is a Fresh Foam X midsole, but it is definitely softer, it's definitely lighter, and you definitely do notice that. That is the thing for me, and I think it's a nice feeling. You know, it maybe changes slightly the experience of running in a 1080 shoe, but I think it's a positive change in terms of what this shoe is like to run in. So you've got that kind of softness, and it's bouncy, it's plush but not overly plush, I don't think. But what I also like is you get this kind of nice rocker feelings. You get kind of nice smooth transitions in this shoe as well. When I was running in it, I felt very, very comfortable running this shoe. I felt like you get through that motion very, very nicely. And I think, you know, that's something that I haven't really seen in the 1080 shoes previously. So I think for me, that's a real kind of plus. Now, Some might think that it's maybe lost, you know, with that kind of softer kind of feeling midsole, maybe it has lost a little bit of that kind of versatility and that ability to be used for kind of more tempo runs. When I tried to pick the pace up in places, I found it was okay. I didn't feel it was an issue. I didn't feel that you had to work hard to kind of run it a little bit quicker in it. You're not going to run and do speed work in it. You know, that's just not what you're going to get here. But I think some slightly more up tempo work, I think this shoe can absolutely kind of handle that, and I would feel confident that it can handle that. And I think, as I said, I put that down to the lightness and that kind of rocker feeling that you're getting in this shoe. In terms of the outsole, I think that kind of contributes to that kind of feeling, that kind of you know, smooth, kind of, you know, bouncy, lively feeling that you do get here on this shoe. The pattern has kind of slightly changed, I think maybe for the better. I think durability wise it's probably going to be a lot of the same. I was only on pavements and kind of roads and it was absolutely fine from a gripping point of view, but I do think maybe the change in design is probably going to help it in terms of creating that kind of nice feeling of kind of, you know, transition you through that kind of from heel to toe, and I think that's going to improve how you're going to feel running in this shoe. So for me, definitely positives here. I like the fact that it's softer, it's lighter. I do still think you get a nice ride here as well. I think it feels enjoyable. It felt nice on that first run that I did. I can only really see positives here. It definitely feels like a more comfortable shoe in general, and I think, you know, that lends itself not only from the midsole but also from the upper as well. And yeah, it's a 1080 shoe that I've actually come away from running in and so far enjoying it. So definitely a shoe that I want to spend more time in. It is a shoe I'm going to spend more time in over the next few weeks. So yeah, positives, you know, in terms of those first impressions. And it looks like the changes New Balance has made on the 1080 V13 compared to the 1080 V12, I think are going to be things that people are going to like, and it's going to make it a better shoe in general as well too. Okay, so initial thoughts on the New Balance Fresh Foam X 1080 V13 is that I did really like it in that first run. You know, I've not absolutely loved running in the previous 1080 shoes, or as I said, have not been massively memorable for me. But I think this might change with this version of the shoe. I like the fact that it's gone softer in terms of that midsole foam. It's lighter. I think the ride there is very nice as well here too. And yeah, I think it's going to sit well with those other kind of cushioned daily trainers that are kind of around this price range. So things like the Asics Gel Nimbus 25, which I think maybe this has a more lively ride compared to that shoe. But, you know, similar, it's very good for kind of those easy, slow runs where you potentially might want to pick up the pace. It's going to probably feel a little bit nicer to do it in here. Things like the Nike Invincible 3, again, that's probably got a bit more life in it in terms of that Zoom X midsole. That's probably got something that's a bit more performance focused in terms of the upper, where this is definitely a little bit more about kind of giving you that kind of supreme comfort here as well. And things like the Brook Glycerin 20, I think that's probably a little bit more versatile. Definitely veers on something you can run a little bit more up tempo, more naturally, I think, and you're getting a good kind of nice, enjoyable kind of feeling from that midsole foam in the Glycerin 20 as well. But I think it sits well with a lot of the shoes that kind of sit around this price range. And yeah, as I said, I think, you know, compared to my experiences with the 1080 V12, this feels like a massive kind of upgrade, I would say, and, you know, a good upgrade. I think if you were looking for something a little bit more enjoyable out of the 1080 shoe, something that can still kind of handle easy, moderately paced runs, and something that can soak up a lot of time on your feet, then it still feels like that shoe, but it's lighter. It's got a softer feeling, a more comfortable feeling, and it still gives you that enjoyable, I think it's still an enjoyable ride, and the potential to run a little bit more at tempo in it as well too. So yeah, all positives for me so far. I think this is going to be a shoe I'm going to enjoy running in, potentially could work itself into my rotation, though I think, you know, shoes like the ones I mentioned and things like the Saucony Triumph 21, you know, there's fierce competition at this kind of price point and also in this category, but it feels like New Balance has come up with a really strong shoe to kind of compete with the competition. Okay, so they have some initial thoughts on the New Balance Fresh Foam X 1080 V13. Now, some of the other run testers will be getting this shoe, so we will be doing a multi-tester review of this soon. But if in the meantime, if you've got any questions or other shoes you want to see it compared to, do let us know in the comments as always. Like and subscribe, hit that little bell to find out about our latest videos, and yeah, we'll see you for the next run testers video.